Josh, how are you, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm doing well.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview.
Of course. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It's great to be able to talk to you. I know we've tried doing this a few times, but some things came up on my end. But I'm glad we're able to do this now, especially before Friday with the full re-release coming out.
Absolutely. Look, it happens. The internet is great until it doesn't work, right? So
Oh,
don't be
absolutely.
worrying. Yeah, don't be worrying.
Oh, cool. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and it's great to be able to talk about some uh, cool releases that are coming out with Horrenda, especially of course, one that came out back in the beginning of the month, but also on Friday as well.
Yeah,
Like
for
seeing
sure.
full releases for everything. How does it feel like after all this time to finally be able to get some full releases coming out here in the States?
It feels great, Josh. I mean, the US we've had a lot of support in the US over the years. But moving on to a label that is US based and um kind of does releases with a lot of pomp and ceremony is like really, really good. So it's really nice to kind of see how you guys do things compared to how we release stuff over in Europe. It's night and day, you know. So far everyone at the label has been fantastic. We've really excited to kind of go back and like Think on Your Sins, fair enough, was released last year and that got a bit of a run, but the Outis for me is like a bigger story here, I think, because we released that the first time, its original mix during the pandemic. We were on the label, we were going over to London for the first time, we were going to support Dark and Turner Slaughter Cult and everything. And then literally COVID, bang, gone. We're in the longest lockdown in Europe. We were locked in lockdown for about 2.5 years. And yeah, we dropped it and it got people through some stuff, but it never really got to shine. You know, we went back, start touring again, and we're like, right, let's go work on the next one, you know? So to actually have people go back, listen to it, and really appreciate the songs is super cool for me. And also the remix that I did, because it's a different remaster remix, um, is really cool as well because it's kind of closer to what we wanted it to be initially. And like there are two versions now, so if people want the cleaner mix, they can have that. But if you want the more kind of cult mix, to use that term, that's what we're releasing on Friday.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see that too. And I love the fact that you didn't just abandon the music just because of
Mhm.
everything that did happen with the band with the pandemic. Like you easily could have just released it, called it a wash, and then just like started working on the new material and just forgotten all about that. But you
Mhm.
actually are so proud of the music that you did release then that you are able to like go back and, either have like the more polished version, the more raw version, whatever it is, like you're putting it out there for people to like still go back and appreciate music from 5 years ago and still show that it's relevant now.
Well, Josh, the thing about it is, I mean, like people still like those songs. You know, we obviously when they're playing live, you change your preset, you know yourself. But a lot of the songs on that are still big hits. You know, people still really, really enjoy it. Slow, for example, is our closer. It's, you get chilled sometimes when you're playing and people sing it back to you. You know, like the actual guitar notes. So, I mean, the songs are really, really good. I'm still very, very proud of them. But when something doesn't sit right and you're like, oh, we could have done it better. Um, but I'll tell you this, it wasn't until we actually started talking to our PR guy, who was like, by the way, you have like all these assets. And we're like, what are you talking about? He's like, you have all these videos, what about a re-release? And then we talked to the label about it, and then we realized, oh, actually, that's a very, very good point. So when you go to our YouTube channel, when you're checking us out, we have a whole cinematic experience which you can go through to supplement the songs, you know? And that was kind of just stuff we did because I've always saw Horrenda as like a project rather than a band. It kind of became a band organically, but we still kind of do stuff like cinematic videos, long-term storytelling, narrative-based songs rather than just, what sounds cool. We have a few of those as well, but and just when an outsider kind of came and said that, hey, look, would you be willing to redo this? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And that's what we've been doing since. So, look, it's great that Think on Your Sins got a great release and people seem to really, really like that. But I think the Altus is really gonna blow people away.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I appreciate both so much. Like,
Thank you.
I keep going back to them ever since I got the promos for both, and like hearing the re-release versions of them as well, and then even
Mm.
going back and like listening, especially for the album, like going back and listening to the remix, remaster, and then going back and listening to the more cult version, if you will. And
Yeah.
I appreciate both sides of that so much because it just shows the power of the songs. Like, no matter if it's
Mhm.
more cleaned up, whether it's more raw, like it still has this kind of power behind it, and it
Yeah.
does feel like two true different versions to the songs as well too. So like,
I'm glad.
whatever mood that you're in for or whatever the case is, like it does work.
Yeah, like I mean, it's there is kind of you don't want to go too far, you don't want to redo it, but based on how the band kind of became into existence, there's certain things you kind of just did to try and just keep the band going. The pandemic, we were sitting on the album and like, what do we do with it? But because we had that reflection, we're like, okay, well, how could we make this better? And it wasn't until I was sitting with the stems, um, last Christmas actually, I was like, oh, actually, let's see what I can do here. Hit it with a remaster, and that's what we got. But like when you're listening to the original version, the more death metal kind of songs like Axe Wound, um, Doom Tranquility, they're really, really they benefit a lot from the cleaner mix. But the more black metal kind of stuff, and even Díoltas, which is a very, very um ethereal song is the only word I can think of, that really benefits from the darker mix, the more dirty mix. It's really, really cool. And that's not something I expected. When I went in and when I was redoing it, I was surprised by what sounded better and what didn't. But you're right. I mean, when you're listening to the original version and when you're listening to this new version, they are very, very different experiences from end to end, even though it's the same songs, but the actual like vibe on it is completely different. And even when you're listening to Still, we dropped Still there the middle of the month. That again, that was rebuilt from the ground up. All the stems, new recordings, complete remix with a video because that never got a video. And I was like, no, man, if we're putting all this effort into it, we're gonna give everybody everything, and that includes a video.
Yeah, and speaking of that as well too, like I really enjoy the visions that you have through all these different videos, like everything that you do see on through YouTube, and just like getting these really cool cinematic experiences that goes along
Hmm.
with everything. Like
Hmm.
you mentioned before, like you think of this as a project because you like working on the visionary as much as you do the audible side of Horrenda. So, I
Yep.
mean, what is that like for you to be able to like go back and forth like this? Like, do you have like these ideas ahead of time of what you want to do with the songs? Do you think of them because of the songs? Like, how does that work for you?
That's a really good question. It's a bit from column A and a bit from column B. I mean, from the early days, even when it was just me, I had like an overall vision for each track. So for each album rather, and then with Neroni Times, that was a kind of concept album in and of itself. So it's always kind of how I've approached it. Now, obviously, when you bring a band in, it changes things up a bit. But I've been lucky that everyone who's in the band right now is on the same page. And we're all big movie nerds as well. So, for like Think on Your Sins, we watched The Devils a lot by Ken Russell. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but that movie's really good.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then like obviously Come on See, which is a very disturbing movie. We watched a lot of Twin Peaks. You can kind of see where those references are. With the Altus there as well, but I was writing the songs mainly at that time. There's one or two that the lads obviously wrote or contributed to in big ways, but that's a much more clearer way. And the narrative of that is very much from end to end. You listen to the first track, it kind of wraps up really, really well. So, I mean, I describe the creative process as like a tap or a faucet where you turn it on and you can write like an album in a week, or it can be off for like 3 years. Um, and that's how it is for me. But obviously, with the band and learning to write as a band, that kind of supplements it. And you can kind of go different ways. But even still, I mean, for Come and See, we were like, okay, well, it's about the movie Come and See. However, uh, our bassist was in a bar. And this guy came in and was telling him about a story from the Irish famine. I don't know if you know the story of the Irish famine, but the Irish famine was a million Irish people killed, a million Irish people moved to the States, moved whatever, because it was um, it was one of the darkest periods in Irish history, right? Uh, And he was like, during that time, two brothers fought over a piece of bread, killed the other brother, and he walked into a bog. And we're like, man, that's a really dark story. And then that's what we used as our base for Come and See. So sometimes it can happen that way where we're like, it just thematically fits in. We have a cool idea. But Think on Your Sins really was kind of like going through like the darkest parts of humanity and kind of really digging into that. So it just fit perfectly.
Yeah, and that's what works so well with the style of music is like you got to make sure that when you're doing this style, like if you really want it to have like this full impact behind it, the lyrical content behind it has got to match
Mhm.
up with it. And
For
when
sure.
you're able to use like real life experiences with it, I mean, obviously there's a lot of tragedy that comes along with that, but with the style
Mhm.
of music, it's absolutely called for. And while it's a bad thing to have that kind of reference to be able to make music with, it does work so much for effect.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like Ireland is, it's obviously there's two Irelands. There's like modern Ireland, and then there's actually there's three or four different Irelands, but there's modern Ireland, and then there's colonial Ireland, and then before that there's, obviously, uh, before the whole British invasion kind of thing. And kind of dealing with those different aspects is always kind of what we've kind of tried to do with Horrenda, where you're kind of go back and reclaiming some of the past or kind of exploring these different avenues. And look, we're not the first Irish band to do it. I mean, like Primordial, they kind of set the bar of how you do it, Cruachan as well. But we tried to do it from a new lens where we reflect everything back through the modern Ireland lens, where it's just like, look, nothing was learned, no lessons were learned. In fact, it's worse, a million people aren't being killed in Ireland, but there's a big housing crisis or whatever. There's these kind of things where no lessons were learned, and Ireland is still in a very rocky state. So yeah, I mean, like it's just something that's always really appealed to us, where we're like, well, here's what we have to say, here's where we're coming from, because like you're a product of your environment, right? So why wouldn't we write about that? Because that's our lived experience. That's what we're surrounded by every day. I know obviously it's different in the US, but it's different in Europe as well. But Ireland's a weird in between where we're just kind of in the middle of the Atlantic or just on the edge of the Atlantic, and we have a different perspective on things.
Oh yeah, and I that's gonna be the case. Like no matter where you are, I mean, there's always gonna be, especially for the style of music that's being performed here. There's always gonna be some kind of tragedy that could go along with that,
There
no
is, yeah.
matter where the location is. But the fact that there's
Absolutely.
the authenticity behind all of it as well, too. Going back on the culture, the folklore, and real life events that have happened. It's just like it just again adds to that authenticity behind it, and I really do appreciate that when it comes to this style of music.
I'm really glad it comes through because we really try to be authentic. Obviously we do the corpse paint, we do that kind of stuff, but that's a show, right? But the actual music itself and what we're trying to say is very much us. It comes from a real authentic place, and then there's some self-reflective songs as well. I mean, not only will we go, well, we're going to talk about this, like Sluagh, for example, is a very introspective song that I wrote. Uh, and it is like, even though I'm using a lot of metaphors in it, it's still a very introspective song. So people can attach onto that as well. But like, if you're not like, music is an interesting thing because like, unlike you're an actor or a painter or whatever, like if you're an actor, you're pretending to be somebody else, right? So, oh, I loved you as this. But when you're a musician and you're writing stuff, it's like, well, yeah, that was a part of me, right? So if you're not authentic, people can latch onto that, which is why like we're Horrenda. There's no, it's not satanic, it's not anti-Christian, it's none of that stuff because that's not who we are. We'll talk about Irish mythology because it's our culture, it's in our blood, right? But at the same time, if we were to do that kind of stuff, one, it's been done to death, in my opinion, and two, it wouldn't be us. So when you come to a Horrenda show or listen to a Horrenda album, it is a combination of who we are. But it's all authentic, all the stuff there. We're not, and which which leads to a problem, Josh, because trying to write songs and force songs out you can't do. Which is why, Think on Your Sins was a bit more difficult. We were trying to find our way after a pandemic, trying to relearn to be a band, right? So it cuts both ways. Some you can write these really cool songs that people relate to, which again I think is amazing. But then you can't force a song, and we've scrapped about 20 or 30 songs where it's just like, "Mm, that's not us, you know.
Yeah, and I was going to ask about that as well too, because I know, well, I mean, obviously everyone who's gone through the pandemic has gone through some kind of change in some way, shape,
Mhm.
or form. And when finding out that you had like all of these songs that you did scrap because you're still trying to find that sound, like, how do you know, like, at this point, like, if it's going to be authentic to what the band can be or not? I mean, considering how many songs that you've scrapped.
There's two ways to do it, right? There's the easy way, but takes a long time, and then there's the hard way, right? So the easy way is you road test the song. So that's why on the Altus, a lot of songs have been road tested. Yeah, it's 5 years old, but those songs were played on the road for three, right? Up and down the country, before we went in and recorded them. So we kind of knew, we're like, okay, these songs are, these are the ones that we want to include. These are the ones that people really like. These are the ones that we really like, right? But when you go from the second album, and particularly that period where you're in a pandemic and you can't play shows, That's very difficult, right? So we were like, okay, um, let's just kind of write what we want to write, and that's how we did it. We were said like, look, people like it, that'd be great, but there's no other way to test this. And obviously there were some songs that we were able to road test, like Come and See. We wrote like two years ago, so we were able to get that road tested pretty well. Nuns Tears was in the set for a while, but songs like Handprints and Think on Your Sins, like itself, they were just we didn't play those that much. We tried to, but the easy way is to have the songs road tested before you go into the studio. But when you're a band and you're trying to do a follow up, you don't really get that opportunity as much. So look, anyone who's making a first album, enjoy that because you only get that once. You only get that kind of leeway once. But other than that, I mean, you just kind of got to go with it.
So thinking about that now, obviously with the album hitting 5 years now and the
Mhm.
EP coming out last year, like how is
Mhm.
that working for new material? Are you guys working on anything
Oh
brand
yeah.
new right now?
Oh yeah. No, we were in the studio there like 2 months ago. We have a new single ready to go. It's just gonna probably drop it before our September tour. We're doing two UK tours. One next month in July, and then in September. So we're probably going to drop it around September. And yeah, and then like we're like there is this unfortunate thing where you start playing more shows, you can't go into the studio. So we're like in between the gaps where we're not touring, we're going into the studio. So we are working towards a second album as such.
Well, I'm glad to hear that as well too. I mean, I'm glad to see that momentum is still going and everything. So along with that, I mean, that's got to be like a cool feeling also when obviously with the pandemic being over and you're able to start doing shows again, that you're able to celebrate everything that's been going on in the discography so far. So you're able to play the past material, you start to focus on the newer material, and then eventually starting to put in the brand new material. So what is that like for you to be able to choreograph those songs for a set list and then also putting the stage show together?
Yeah, it's as I said, like there's different like phases. For me, there's different phases of Horrenda, right? So obviously it's myself and the five lads who are the band, right? But I'm doing the samples, I'm doing, kind of the logistics of putting the show together as such from a technical standpoint. So, we'll sit down and talk, well, what song do we want to play? And we'll build a set list, and then I'll be like, right, maybe I need to change here or here, make a couple of tweaks, and that's it. But what we're trying to do consciously is have a bank of songs where we're able to swap them out, particularly if doing longer tours. We don't play the same songs every night. Obviously, there's certain songs you have to play, but we're trying, as I said, we're trying to road test these new ones. And yeah, like there's some other ones that are going way back that we're kind of relearning because we had to swap over a drummer there last year. Um, so he's learning these songs for the first time in some cases, and he's been a huge credit. I mean, Matt is one of the best drummers in Ireland. And that's not just saying it because he's the drummer of Horrenda. He really is. And he's recorded the new material as well, and it's absolutely great. But because we swapped over a drummer, which is like a key part of the band, um, you get to kind of relearn the songs and rework the songs. So that's kind of something that, to answer your question, that's something that we've really enjoyed, kind of rebuilding new set lists around our new drummer, which is a pretty neat experience, all right, for sure.
Oh yeah, and when you do switch out like such a pivotal member of a band like the drums like that, it
Mhm.
it can change the songs drastically sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's for the better, sometimes it kind of changes the songs. I mean, have you noticed that at all with the new songs like
Yeah.
any major changes that have come with that?
Yeah. I mean, like Jay, our last drummer was fantastic. Like he really is. I mean, the brutality and like just approach that Jay would take when it came to the songs is completely different to Matt's, right? But however, it wouldn't be it's not like a trade-off in a sense. It's just different. So with Matt, he's a technical kind of player in a different way. So for example, in the new songs, we're kind of going towards a Carry for the Sky, a Len kind of thing. And I'm a big post black metal fan.
Me
Harry
too.
Carry for the Sky. Yeah, I love Carrick. I love Harry Carry for the Sky, and Mark's a huge Len fan, right? So we're like, let's do a couple of these songs because they're quite fun, right? You can probably hear it on Thinking Your Sins. It's starting to creep in, but when you're recording that, you don't really realize how good your drummer is until you're listening back to the takes and you're like, holy shit, this guy's really good. So like, because obviously when you're playing live, you know what the songs are like and you're waiting for the cue and you're keeping in time. But when you're recording and you're in the studio, that's when you really learn how good your band members are. And I'm very, very blessed that my band members are fantastic because not only are they great musicians and they're my friends, but when we go into the studio, we can absolutely just kill it. Like so, it's lucky that we got such a good member for the drums because again, that could have went really bad. Again, like drums are pivotal, but we were just very, very lucky. It just lined up real well.
Oh yeah, and as a drummer myself, I know how valuable drums are, especially with how little people in context to how many people want to do vocals or
Yep.
guitar or whatever. Like when you can just find a drummer, that's a great thing. But when you can find a great drummer who knows what they're doing, I mean, that is such a pivotal thing to do. And the fact that you're able to continuously find that for the band and,
Mhm.
hopefully everything continues to go in that right direction when it comes to that. But it's just like it's so important to have the right people that are working towards the same goal and everything. And I can imagine, it's like that had to be like a big shift for you when it did go from just yourself to like a full band, making sure that you have the right people that are working towards the same goal. You can trust that with the music, that it goes into the right direction that you want it to.
Well, Josh, we went through 11 members, so it was kind of an attrition where it was like, it was just me, got a few other people in. Aaron showed up after our third gig, and it was me and Aaron basically for like a couple of years. And then over time, we got Keith, we got Mark, CJ, and then eventually Matt. Like it's just, I think if you just keep going and you don't just settle for, okay, when you're in a band, as you know yourself, like if you're doing it for fun, that's great. But if you're doing it for more than fun, you need people who are doing the same thing. And that's kind of with anything else. It goes for like your job, your relationship, whatever. If you're with somebody who doesn't want what you want, it's going to be a natural source of conflict. And unfortunately, in music, you kind of have to have that point where it's like, yeah, look, we're friends, but we're also in this band, we're trying to do the same thing. So, I mean, we sat down 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and we're like, look, lads, pandemic's over. What are we doing? Are we gonna go for it or are we not? And we all said, hell yeah, let's go for it. So that's what we're doing. And we're playing as many shows as we can. We're trying to get them to Europe. We just booked Poland. And now with this album, these two albums being released in the US, that's the goal. We want to go play in the US. We want to play wherever we can because we are all on the same page. And that is because as a band, we made the decision, this is where we're going. And that's the difference. I mean, like I've seen so many bands personally who I know who are friends of mine or whatever, but they're fantastic. Um, couldn't be in a band with them, you know? because they don't want the same thing. So, and that's not no shade to anyone else, but at the same time, for us, we're like, no, we got to do it. We got to push. And like, shout out to Dead Flesh, who are in the UK, very good friends of mine. We did a UK tour. We did an Irish tour with them, played a couple of shows in the UK with them. And those lads are the same, they're like sleeping on floors. They're, you know, up all night. They're driving to the next town, and that's really what it is. And not everybody wants to do that. Some people just want to do it for fun, which is awesome. Like I love playing live shows. I think it's great meeting everybody who's there in the shows, meeting the fans, blah blah blah. That's awesome, right? But at the same time, as a band, particularly when there's six of us, if you're in a band with someone who's like, I just want to play this on the weekend, that's going to cause an issue. So we went through 11 members for different reasons, and we just hit the core six, and I can't explain how grateful I am for that.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more with all of that. And just another perspective to put it onto there. It's like that half hour to an hour that you get to be on stage is one thing, but it's the other
Mm,
23 and a half hours of being in a band in a project like this that matters so much, whether
mhm.
you're on the road, whether you're in the studio, it's just like there's going to be a lot of trials and tribulations that happen through that. But if you want to work towards that goal and you find the right people that want to do that, it's such a great feeling. And it's so awesome to see that, despite everything, post pandemic, that you still have this core group of members that want to make sure that Horrenda is going to be the best that it possibly can be, both in the studio, both in the live show, and just working towards that goal to make sure that this can be sustainable.
Absolutely. And it's being in Ireland because we are in an island. It presents its own challenges, right? Going to the UK is expensive, right? Going to Europe is expensive because you can get the boat, but you can fly, and you have to stay, accommodation, all that kind of stuff, and then moving around. It presents its own challenges. So I think from our experience, once you make that decision as an Irish band, you're like, we're going for it, right? Because you're over that hump, you're over that kind of mental block, it seems, where it's like, oh no, we can't do that, or it's too expensive, or whatever. It's not like it is in the US where the US is big, right? You guys are big. You can drive up and down the road. Europe's connected with trains and stuff. Ireland is just you have to take that jump. So that's been really good for us because once we started going over to the UK, we're like, you know what? We're just going to keep going. And again, very, very lucky to have a group of lads who all want to do that because, if you don't, it could create issues. But going through the pandemic again, like there were so many bands. I don't know how familiar you are with the Irish metal scene, but there's so many bands who just broke up, finished, because of the pandemic, and it was a lot, right? But for us, we're like, well, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going, and that's kind of where we are. And look, I've been lucky to have Aaron pretty much from gig three, and it's been me and him just powering through. But everyone who we've picked up, who has stayed, is all there because one, they love playing. Two, they love putting on shows, and like it's really cool to travel around to different places and see horrendous shirts of people we don't know in different places, and then been like, you know, it's so cool that your show was great, or even better, you see a whole crowd of people with their arms crossed, and then we play, and then they all run and buy merch. I really enjoy that too, because it means it worked. They connected with the music as well, which is super awesome. But yeah, man, look, it's tough, and it's the pandemic was rough for sure, but like just being a band in 2025 is also rough, but you just got to do it. And that's my advice to anybody. You just got to push.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head so very well. Like one of my favorite experiences ever is going to play a show. They have no idea who you are. And then after you're done playing, you're done getting everything off the stage. They either come up to you or they go to the merch table or whatever, and they talk about how much they love you, that you won them over
Yeah.
because of the show that you did, and they want to hear you on record. They want to buy a shirt, whatever the case is. It's just like the fact that you can connect with people like that just from a live show, let alone everything else that you do as a band, and hopefully having them as a loyal fan going forward and everything like that. I mean, that's such a great thing. And that goes so well into everything that you guys are doing now. I mean, hitting some territories that you haven't played before as well. I
Mhm.
mean, what is that like for you to be able to like explore new territories that you haven't gone through as a touring band?
One, I'm really glad you've had that experience because that's awesome. I'll have to check your band out because when you do get that, it's just like hell yeah, because you can't describe that to anyone else who hasn't experienced it. Um, but one of the really cool stories that I have, before I answer your question on the touring thing, is we played London last year with Whoa, and played the show, it was grand, and then about a month later we were doing the Irish tour, and there was an American guy who came up and he goes, "I saw you guys in London, and I traveled over to see you guys here, but I was too scared to go up and talk to you because you're really scary on stage." And we're like, "Oh man, it's all good." So we tried to give him some merch and stuff, but that was awesome. Like that's never happened before, where someone literally saw us in London and traveled over, which it's not super far, but it's still like that was pretty cool. So definitely, if he's listening, I really do appreciate that. That kind of stuff's awesome. But to go to new territories, like because Ireland is so small, and I really can't put that into perspective enough. It is a small place. You can drive from one side of the country to the other in about 3 hours, and you drive from top to bottom in about five, right? So it's not a big place. So when you're a band starting off, you try to hit the cities as much as you can. A lot of venues are shutting. It's kind of a bit bleak. So for us going into the UK, which is obviously a lot bigger, you can play every night and play a different venue. That's really exciting for us because it's like, okay, these are really, really cool. And we get to meet a lot of great bands. The crowds are super great. But the crowds like in different markets are really, really into it, which is also something that we didn't expect. Because unfortunately, when you're playing in certain parts of Ireland, sometimes, depending on where it is, it can be hit and miss. Now, don't get me wrong, Belfast, Cork, Limerick, fantastic. We love all the bands there. The crowds are always great. Some other places, I'll leave it there. But the exciting prospect is as a black metal band to go to Germany, to go into Poland. I mean, these are big spots as a European metal band that you want to hit, right? So that's really exciting for us. And to be honest with you, I mean, it's so outside the realms of possibility when you're starting off because you're in Ireland and you hear about these venues. To do it, it's kind of surreal. I'll be honest with you, Josh. It's a little bit surreal. But we're embracing it and we're rolling with it. We're like, right, let's go. And to be fair, that's what the US is like for us now. I mean, it's on our roadmap. We don't know how we're going to get there. So if any US promoters are listening, email us. we'll set something up because we'd love to do it. But we're going with the mindset of any opportunity that we're given, we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, and again, I love hearing that, and I would love for you guys to be able to make it over here. I can think of so many different festivals over here that I think you guys would work so perfectly for that cater to black metal in some way, shape, or form, and I would just love to see that happen one day. But until then, the fact that you're able to explore more of Europe as Horrenda, and whatever other situations start to happen with that, and of course brand new music as well too.
Yeah.
And again, like kind of like I mentioned before, and I gotta say it again, I love the fact that the pandemic did not kill the band. Like you're able to keep going with this, that all of you have this passion and fire to make sure that this keeps going. And what I can only imagine is going to be some of the strongest material that you guys have done to date will be coming out in the near future as well too, with the new release whenever that ends up happening, because
I
it's just
think
like
you'll
there's been so many different trials and tribulations that have happened since then, and I can
Mhm.
just imagine being able to purge all of those emotions and feelings and everything through that, through this art known as music, is going to be an incredible thing to see.
I think you'll really like it. You summed it up really, really well there. It's one of the things where like the pandemic was a big thing. It didn't kill the band. It didn't make us stronger, but it did kind of made us reflect on, right, we can't waste time. We got to actually go for it. And I mean, that's kind of like the reflection. Any band that's in that situation, we were like, okay, well, we lost 2 years. We lost our label, we lost all this kind of stuff, but we gained it all back and then some. And now we're on a fantastic label in the US, and I'm getting to talk to you and people who've never heard us before are. So I mean, look, as cliche as this is, everything happens for a reason. It really does, even though you might not know what it is at the time. And now it looks like that's what it was for. And we have all these bank of songs that we're working on. We have our studio sound that we're happy with. And it's a case now of just, if you want to buy a t-shirt, please do go over buy the albums. And if you're a booker or promoter, shoot us an email. We'll sort something out because that's the next step for Horrenda is the US.
Oh, awesome. Well, I think right there, I think that's a great way to be able to end this. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be able to talk about everything that's going on with Horrenda right now,
Thank you, sir.
with the re-releases, with all the shows that are coming up and everything. Please, to be able to end this, plug everything that you got going on to make sure that people know what's going on with Horrenda.
For sure. Well, one, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for that outro. I do appreciate it. Look, Horrenda is very easy to find. You just type Horrenda black metal into Google, you'll get everything. Horrenda official is pretty much everything we are except for on Facebook. But yeah, like you can check out all the music there. You can find all their dates if you happen to be in Europe or if you want to travel over. And yeah, our link tree is there with everything: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and the email there as well, and our Bandcamp as well, which is the best way to support us. We're also on Spotify. All of our stuff's up on Spotify as well.
Oh, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's just like I know it took a few times for this to happen, but I'm so happy that we were able to make this happen because I really enjoy what you guys do, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to promote you guys in the best light that I can over here in the States, hopefully winning some more people over, and hopefully those bookers are going to be checking this out and seemed intrigued enough to be able to reach out and make something happen in the future. But until then, I'm so excited to see all the dates that you have coming up throughout Europe, all the brand new music that will be coming out eventually, whatever release that ends up happening. And yeah, I just being able to talk to you and see the true passion that you have behind this, the resilience that's happened throughout all of this, and just being able to talk to someone who really knows what it's like to go through the ringer when it comes to all this stuff through the pandemic and coming out the other side, coming out as strong as you possibly can be. It was just awesome to be able to talk to you, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time.
Of course, man. Look, anytime you want to have us back on, let me know, and we'll be there. But great to talk to someone who is knowledgeable about music, who is a musician himself and gets it. I really enjoyed this time. So thank you so much.